Hi, welcome back. This is part 4 of our event advertising tutorial, and we're looking at the ad that we created last time, and everything looks good on this. The only thing that I noticed is that our images down here are all about ballooning, and we have a music festival too, so we need to change some of these. So I have already downloaded some, and I've got those off the internet, and you have to, sometimes for the bigger background images, you have to look for larger files, but on these, you can see when you open them up, if you expand this out, you can see the actual size. So this is not very big, but it'll work fine. And then I had some other images too. So I can go ahead and load this one. I'm going to go ahead and say OK, and then this one. So I'd already told it to fit proportionately, so if you go into place, that should be fine. And then if we want to pick a music one, let's pick one of these. Maybe let's get a musician in there, and see, it didn't fit perfectly, but if you click on this and go into object fitting, go to fit content proportionally or fit frame proportionally. So let's fit frame proportionally, and you can see he looks good there. And if you do want to flip images, you can go to transform, and you can go to flip horizontally, and if that happens, you just need to move it over. So the other thing you can do is just go ahead and select the image itself instead of the box. This is the actual window box that it's in. This is the actual photo, and if you wanted to flip that, you can do that, but I'll show you what happens when you flip horizontally. It moves way over to the side, so if you hit your arrow keys, you can see what happens. It just flips out of the box itself. The window box is still there, and I'm just moving the image over using the arrow key, and you'll see when it goes all the way to the edge, and you can fit it in there depending on how you want it to fit. Okay, so we have all that done. Now we need to create some other page layout. So the best thing to do for this is to make a copy of the graphics on this page and then go to the other pages. So basically I'll just go ahead and select all, and I kind of scroll down a little bit, just make a copy, Command C, and then go to pages, and then go to your second page, and go ahead and you can go to edit, paste and place like we did before, and you'll have everything in there. The other thing, let's see, we didn't create a gradient up here. We could do that too. We'll do that on the second one over here. So I think I had my background locked on this one. So yes, I did. So the background didn't come in. So if you unlock the background in layers, but you can see I have them broken into 3 different areas. So I'm going to go ahead and select this, copy it, and then I'll go back to page 2 and paste in place. Okay, so there it is. Now if we want to, let's go ahead and do some layout changes on here, and there's quite a few things we could do. We could put this into a circle shape. We could put it into triangle shape. We could put it into a star. Some of these aren't going to lend itself very well to this layout, but you can take a look and see. What we can do is go under Object, and it's called Convert Shape. So we can convert it to rounded rectangle, beveled, ellipse, triangle, polygon. So let's try triangle and see what happens. So you can see it doesn't really lend itself that well to this image, but you could use it, and then you could build things around it. So it could work, but we probably would rather have something else. Let's try ellipse. And so that works a lot better, and that's not bad, and that's something that we created from in the dynamics of design. So I did want you to kind of use some of those layout designs for this too, so you can get an idea how that looks, and that looks pretty good. In this case, what we could do is we could move these images up to go along with it, something more like that. And there's quite a few other things we can do. We could also put a stroke on this, so we can go in here and say we want a stroke. I didn't say what color I wanted, so let's say it's going to be a dark kind of burgundy stroke and not a fill. And then you can go to the different types of strokes too. You can go to thin and thin, and then you won't really see it that much until you get it big enough, and then you can see that there's a double line around it. Then it's going to interfere with this, so you probably have to bring that down a little bit too. So that doesn't look so bad, and it's a pretty good basic design. So let's go ahead and we'll take that and we'll put it on this page. And instead of doing what we did before, let's move some of these out of the way. I'm just going to move this off to the side. I didn't want everything to go off to the side, just this. What we could do is move the type around a little bit. So there's a few things we could do. We could bring the graphics up, such as this and this, bring it up, bring the headline down, and do something like that with it. Let's go ahead and lock our background again so it's not interfering with my selection of the graphics. So we could do something like that. This would have to be, of course, it'd have to be smaller and have to work a little bit differently, but you can get an idea how that could work. This could get cut off a little bit also. So we could fill the box with a color, the text box. We could do that. And pick a color that we already have. So I don't think I saved this tan color, but we could. So we can just go ahead and use the eyedropper to change that. So you can see this is what it looked like. And in here, if we select that and then we go to the eyedropper, we can just pick a color for the background. And then we can move the photos around. Now it looks like I change the size of the photos, and it looks pretty, no, that looks like I got them pretty close. And I moved them further apart, which is, it's better to do these all together. Make sure you have them all selected when you do it, which I did not. Okay, so I have to make sure I have the text, the window boxes for these. When I do that, them up. And I can move text up. Now the text looks like it moved because it's not really in the center anymore. And let's go to our design mode here, and then I can see the center point on that. And let's try these. So that's centered. This doesn't look quite right because it's got the space above it, but you can go to the text frame options and set that the inset, and that's going to look better. If you preview it, that's what it's going to look like, and it doesn't look bad. I mean, we could make this a little bit smaller. That might be more beneficial. Probably look a little bit better, and see the ampersand switch to the other side, so that means I have to recenter this. Okay, so that's one of the different layouts, and for some reason I did not get this all centered. And don't forget to lock your background if you have it in the background. So this is locked, it didn't get placed in the black background, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it and then paste in place, and then I'm going to lock it. That way I can just go ahead and select these objects in here, and I can move these toward the center, more like that. You can see that's centered okay, and so that looks good. We just we're missing the date, so let's go to pages and let's look at the date on here and see if I can get that, the location. There we go, date and location. Let's copy that, and I could use that for this, may not. It's this page, maybe. So this could go, it actually could go to the very top on this, and it wouldn't look bad to have it, but maybe in a bigger band at the top. Sometimes it's good to create spaces for your graphics, such as bands for your type to go into. And same thing with this, is the one I created it for the other designs. I put it in a box and spaced things out. This thing, we would probably want to break this up into 3 columns and move the columns up too, so that would be something else that we would have to do. You won't be able to do it in the settings like we did before, but we'll come back to that in a second here. But I wanted to deal with this first. So on this we had an outline, and I want to get rid of the white outline on that. It's got the solid fill, but I want to make this bigger so it takes up more of the space, and of course I need to bleed that off the edge. So then I want to reset the inset text frame options, and increase the, not decrease, increase the, and increase it. Say OK. And you get an idea of what that's going to look like. Now the bottom looks a little bit too small, and then we'll have to deal with that. But this may be one of those that instead of having it in a text box, it might work better if we just create this as a separate solid box. It works better for creating, and I don't even have to do that. I can just take this out. I can get rid of the, I'll get rid of the text frame options. We'll just go ahead and we'll delete that. We're going here. We'll just use that. We won't fill it with color. We'll say no color. We'll make the type black for now so we can see it, and bring this down. And really what I want to do, it works better for layout purposes, is when you take a look at this, look at the bleed area on here and make sure that you have it set for the bleed. And this little red line, you can see I didn't get the background in there perfectly. So let's unlock it, and the background is set in here, but it's not set exactly to the bleed edges, but I'm going to go ahead and correct that right now. And then when I lock it, it'll be locked in place. I have to check the other ones too, but just go to the rectangle tool and we'll go to the graphics layout, and we'll go ahead and make a band that goes across all the way to the bleed marks, and we'll fill that with that burgundy color. I think it's that color. And then we'll go ahead and move this type back over the top. And then I have, especially at the top and the bottom, you need to have a little bit of space to deal with it, and the inset doesn't work as well for this. It works better for pull quotes and little graphics that go within your actual design, but for this it would not work as well. So I'm going to go ahead and change the type to white, and I can change the font size, or a font style and size if I want to. Now if I want to go in here and increase the font size, we can do that, and then you can take a look at it. Let's look at it in preview. So I got it too far to the top because of where that bleed is, and bring it down, and it's the same color as this outline. So actually that looks pretty good. That's not bad. But I think what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and we'll make the type the burgundy color. We'll get rid of the background because I want to create a drop shadow just on the type itself, and I'll probably have to reduce some of that type size too, and then I'm going to move everything down slightly, and then we'll move this down too. And so that way you can work with the full ellipse part of it if you want to do that. I would make this probably a little bit smaller, lower the leading so the type is pretty tight in there. And then what I'd want to do is to put a drop shadow on it. So you can go to Effects in the menu under Object and go to Drop Shadow. And you can see that that drop shadow is not very good, but you can see all the other things you can do too. But you remember what I was saying is if you change the 9 to a 3, that usually works pretty darn good. And then you can use global settings, which means it's going to be shadowed the same as everything else. These shadows in here will be in the same direction. So you can see the angle is exactly the same. And that looks good. And we could even do that on the ellipse itself. So if we go into here and go into drop shadow, we can do it in here too. So just make sure that you change these, and then make sure you click on global so everything follows suit. But there you have a pretty nice looking design. This could move around, could be smaller, doesn't have to be quite that big. It may be too large for this type of design, but you get the idea. This looks a little bit big, but that doesn't look bad. So now we have 3 different page layouts. This one's a little bit different, so we still didn't deal with this, but we can fix that. So if we go to Properties, we'll go back to Align down at the very bottom, and we'll change this. We don't want to align it. We just want to align it with the bottom. So these alignment tools are not going to work very well for this. So I think we're just going to have to break this into, make it into 3 separate columns. So one would have to be this big. And then you can use the box for the photo as a guide for the size of your graphics, or the size of your text box. You can do that. And then you can see if I pull this up and align it, I might have to make it a little bit bigger. And this could be just a little bit bigger too to make it align better. But then you get everything lined up properly. All right, so we have some good designs we can use. So you can see in the pages we created, this is the first one, that's the second one. We're just reusing the same information to create these. So that's what I would expect you to do, is follow the dynamics of design and use some of those layout possibilities for your designs. But the other thing I wanted to remind you of is when you're doing a search in Google and you're looking for White Sands Balloon Festival photos, make sure that you go to your Google search, then go to images, and you'll see all these photos. But over here in tools, if you click on that, you can search for larger size images, and then you can go in here. If you click on them and scroll over, you can see this is 1280 by 720, which would probably work fine. Some of these are really large, like this one I think is 1900 by almost 1200. And some of these are real big. Some of these are super small. See, this is too small for that type of layout. We already looked at that one. So you can see they're all a little bit different. It depends on what people uploaded. This is not White Sands. This is something else. So you don't want to use that, but you can see. Make sure that when you go here that you look at the size first. Then you might even have to go to the site to get those images, because some of them are available by just right-clicking and save image as, and some of them are not. So, but make sure that you do your search for larger size photos when you're doing this. So, all right, so now we have a couple more things I want to show you. Is just some layout possibilities. So these are some other designs that I created independently, and that's similar to what we have already. This is a different one, different design motif, different graphics. Here's the use of that star. This one's the use of the half circle and the logo a little bigger. The box house shape that we created. Here's a triangle. A triangle doesn't work that great. I tried to make it work, but it's not that great. And then, using smaller shapes. Here we're using the rectangle and the type at the top and the boxes at the bottom. It's pretty basic layout, and then the color background. So the only other thing we talked about doing a gradient. You can create different gradients, but come up with some good designs and give me some ideas of what you may want to do, and I'll get back to you and tell you how to fix them or make them better. Okay, that's it for event advertising.